Hi guys, Namaste. This is Vidyashri from Brick&Bolt. Welcome to our second episode of Before You Build. So you might have seen in our episode 1 how we have discussed about the 8 factors impacting on the site for the construction while you are choosing or while you're deciding on your destination place. So now let's talk in this episode about how you will be planning for the budgeting of your project, or how you should be considering the 8 important factors you have to keep in note when you are going for a construction budgeting, or whatever the miscellaneous things you have to consider here. Okay, so basically what is the important step here before you consider the budgeting is the scope of work. So I would say, once you are planning for your dream house, what kind of house you need? Is it a rental purpose, or it's a for self-use, or you're going with the fancy vacation house or farmhouse? These needs to be having a consideration. Secondly, I would say, once you're planning for a house, what pattern you're designing, which theme you would go, like it might be architecturally or any other themes like old vintage, contemporary, or the Mediterranean type, how many floors you would go, what kind of needs you have. Some might have a swimming pool, some might need a gym, some might need a garden there. You have to plan all this and then go for a next budgeting. So secondly, which is a crucial part, is setting up a realistic budget range, which everybody tends to have errors here. So now I would suggest, once you have a budgeting, when you're planning for a budget, I would request you to consider major factors like the materials, or you want the eco-friendly, or you want to go with the energy efficient, or you want to go with the low maintenance house. So now comes what is a low maintenance and how I should plan. So you are going with self means you have to go with bricks or double AC or the blocks, which is also cost effective. Then comes the brands, which brand you would use. You might go at the end and choose a different brand and end up a high cost there. So you have to consider all this. Also involves the legal problems. So now comes the permits, approvals, maybe the water supply, where your site is located, it have a water supply, or you need to get it from outsource, or you have a power supply. Everything depending here will also, a small impact will make a huge difference once you planning your budget. Third important aspect is going a research on local construction cost here. So when you do this, you can do it online, offline, and this will be a dependency on your locality. So this differs area to area and your location. So now when you're considering this local research, you have to consider the material and labor both here. So when I'm doing the material research online, I might see a different brand or a different price, and offline that might be a different price. So the nearest will give you a whole picture of what will be your final budget, and this will also have an implication on current market rates. So this month the cost might be different, after 3 months the cost might be different. So there have to be a buffer cost planned, and this also involves the labor cost. So when you plan for your material, you please take some 30% of your cost on labor also, which will give you an approximation buffer cost. When you're considering the cost here on the materials while doing the research, I would also recommend you to consider the stock market here also with the social activities. For example, when we had a Russian war, we could see the drastic change in the steel cost, which had a high impact on the project cost. I mean, 1 ton, 2 tons will eventually vary your cost for the overall structure. So I would also recommend you to see the stock markets and the current market conditions, also the social conditions. Fourth important aspect is obtaining the quotations and estimate, which will help you give the bifurcation and the comparison of your overall budget. I mean, to move further, this will be your major step to understand the basic budget which is required. So now, once you are going with the quotations or estimate, this is also there in online and offline objects. You can go with the offline research with your local contractors and the neighboring contractors, or you can also check in the websites, multiple branding companies, where how the costing is done based on your requirements. For example, you can go to Brick&Bolt website also and give your requirements of what is your plot area, how many floors you are going to build, what will be the configuration, is it a residential or it's a commercial. You have a different package rates in branding. I mean, different companies give you different package rates. You can also check that, but this if you apply your package rate, or if you select whichever you would like to go ahead, then you will end up getting the basic requirements, I mean basic cost what you need as per your requirements. This also needs to be checked, what is your requirement, what brands you would need. I mean every costing or approximation you get will differ here, because somebody might be using different steel, somebody might be using a different brand of steel here. This differs on what kind of budget you are planning. If you are planning in a high budget, you would also go and choose the high branding. If you are going with the basic budget, you will plan with the basic material, which also should give you a quality work done here. So this is also an important aspect which will give you a rough estimate on your planning. So here comes the fifth important aspect here is the contingency funds. So you might be questioning what is contingency funds here. So what is contingency is the overhead cost or a miscellaneous cost basically. So now I am planning a house of my budget of certain package here or certain budget, but I have not considered my overhead cost. Maybe when I go for a material selection, I might choose a upgraded brand, or when I go for a material selection, I might get a different recommendation from the site people or from a different known sources here. So construction cost cannot be a boundary cost here. So there has to be some buffer cost kept for your overhead charges. That might be your water resource, that might be your electrical charges, that might be your installation charges from the BESCOM, or the contractor might have with the overhead charges based on the quantities, the site minor changes. I might decide a different paint colors there or the different brands there. When I go for a final finishing products, which will always have a cost impact. Final finishing materials which needs to be chosen very critically will have a major cost impact. So I would suggest to keep at least 10 to 12% of the project cost as a buffer and overhead cost, which is called as contingency funds. So sixth important and the major point is the funding. How you're planning your funding. Is it a self-funding, or you're going with the loan, or you have any other kind of source here, or you're going with the plot? What is your funding is a major source, because you will know what you can afford and what will be the product here. So I would suggest if you're going for a self investment, that is well and good. If it is not, then if you are going with the loan, what is my initial payment to start my work? Any project if you start, basically post your plinth completion only you will be getting your loan money, unless the bank comes and give you a verification and your money will be dispersed. So my question is, what will be my initial money to invest? So I have to invest and start for bank to give my money. So for first step to complete the foundation, I might need the 8 to 10% of project cost as a buffer zone. So once you have this money in your hand as a self investment, you can go ahead with the loan. I mean anybody who can planning the construction also needs to plan what will be my loan money, what interest I am paying, how much will be the money, what kind of disbursements I am having. So when you go for a combined loan, they would give you the initial money to start the work. When you go for a normal housing loan, you might get the loan once you complete the work. So there are different aspects. So you need to check with your bank people also on how loan will be disbursed. If the work is delayed, what will be the penalty or any implications I am doing later, or to start the work, is there any implications now if I am starting later by next month due to my other designs or my approval issues. So these aspect needs to be checked, which will also be a big impact for you in the end stage. Seventh important aspect is, which many of them will not be considering as an error, will be an insurance cost. Is it a life or your lifetime investment needs the insurance, which will include your builder risk, your liability risk, or any weather risk, or your damage risk. So considering all this, your insurance also will be having a cost impact on the project cost. Hope our insights will help you in your construction journey of your dream house. So if you like this video, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, and if anybody is in need of this or planning, you can share them. Thank you. Bye bye.